Hi kids! I am here to talk to you today about your most recent assignment for this week. So we are going to develop a concept. So your project for this week is to come up with a concept and to photograph one picture that goes with that concept. So there's a couple of other layers to this project, but I kind of wanted to come on here and just talk to you all about what a concept is, because if you've never heard of this before, it may sound like something really confusing. So I'm going to try and clear that up a little bit. So this week you had 2 articles that you were going to look at, and then you had a video. So the video is how to create a series of paintings. Now, the article or the blog posts talk about how to create drawings from start to finish, or a concept of drawings. We are not painting and we are not drawing. I just want to clear that up first. What we are doing is we're using the steps that are in those videos and in those article posts to apply it to photography. So even though they're talking about drawing and even though they're talking about creating paintings, you don't have to think that it's just targeted to that. It is actually targeted to all types of art that is being created. So you can still watch that video and gain some really helpful insight of how to complete this project. So in the video, he talks about how you are going to, start with an idea, you're going to brainstorm, you're going to develop what you want your pictures to look like, and then you're going to start to create those pictures, or in his case, paintings. If you look at the articles that I have included, the very first article is going to be your most helpful. Your second article that I posted for you, or your second blog post, is some steps that you can use in order to complete this process as well, and kind of use those steps as a double check to make sure that you actually have a clear concept and a clear idea. So first of all, let's talk about what a concept is. A concept is really just a fancy word for an idea, or like something that's going to connect all of your artwork that you're creating. So you're going to develop your own specific concept. Now, it may sound very general at first, but then you're going to narrow down that focus a little bit more, and that's going to be your concept. So at the end of this, and by the end, I mean the end of the semester, you should have a very clear idea of what your concept is and how you have shown your concept. So I'm going to show you some not ideas, but I'm going to show you some examples that I have created when I was creating my portfolio in school. Anytime artists create artwork, they always start with an idea, and that idea is then explored through a series of artwork. Now, if you're planning on taking the AP class later on, this is exactly what you're going to do for that. This is how you're going to earn your college credit, by developing a concept and creating artwork along that concept. So let's talk about this. So the concept is just going to narrow your focus. It's just going to tell your audience what your artwork is all about. So you want to make sure that when you're thinking about how you're going to develop your concept, that you're not all over the place. Because if your viewer doesn't know what you're talking about, the artwork's not going to hold that much weight. And you're not going to create single individual artworks that are different from each other without connecting them somehow as well. So let me share with you. This right here is my art portfolio that I made when I was graduating from college. We were told that we had to develop a concept or an idea, and we were going to create a series of artwork on that concept. So the concept behind my artwork is that I really enjoy photographing people. But I don't just want to say that my concept is people. I have to dig a little bit deeper. So the question you can always ask yourself when you are developing this is, what about your concept? So what about it are you exploring? So if I like the idea of photographing people, what about people do I want to show my audience? So that's what you want to think about. I knew that I wanted to show my audience something that was special about each person that I photographed, or a characteristic of something, of the way I viewed those people. So I took photographs of people in areas that really reflected who they were through my eyes. So that is my concept. Now, remember, I tell you this all the time. And I'm just going to say it again. You cannot copy anything that you hear from me. You have to develop your own concept. So I always photograph people when I start to explore different ideas, or I always explore things that are related to people or the human emotion. But for this one, this is more about how I photographed people that are close to me in my life and what I wanted my viewers to know about them. So this is my portfolio. I had this created, special ordered this, and within there, and you're not going to be doing this quite as intense as this. Yours is all going to be digital. I have my opening page that has my name and says who I am. But we're going to take a look at some of the photographs that I created of these people. And I'm going to tell you some stories about them. So this art piece was created because I wanted to show people about my uncle. And you'll notice throughout the pictures that I show you, all of these people in here are related to me or somehow connected to me. So these people are the ones that have had a really big impact on me, and so that's what I wanted to highlight, was how do these people and the characteristics that I think about when I think of them relate directly to me. So this is my uncle. What I often think about when I think of him is how you can see him driving around town often with his windows all rolled down and his arm hanging out of the window. But he's always in his truck. Whenever I think about him and the memories I have, it's about him in his truck. He's a construction worker. So I think about all the tools, the big rack that's on the back of his truck, his identifiable characteristics. And so I wanted to photograph him in his truck with those characteristics. So that is why I took this picture. His car's always parked really far up in his driveway. It's always the first one in the driveway, just to kind of keep his car protected and to keep his tools protected. But these are characteristics about him. So I didn't want to just take a picture of him by himself. I wanted to show little features about who he is to me. So you can see the kind of the red in the seat belt of his truck, and you can see the steering wheel so that you can tell where he is. So these components are not, they're not, in your face, and they're not really like pointed out, like here's his truck. They're not super literal. And so that's what you want to think about when you're creating your concept is this too much? Am I trying to tell my story to my viewers, like by beating them over the head with it? Because sometimes it's the little details that are kind of hidden that get your story really for your viewer to connect with. So there's that picture. Now this picture was taken of my grandmother. Now she's no longer with us, she's passed away, but when I think about her, I always think about her being upstairs in her house and sitting in her room. And so when I set this picture up, I wanted to remember, well, this was prior to that, but I wanted to put her in a place where I thought about her a lot. It's usually upstairs or in her kitchen. And so I wanted to photograph her upstairs in her room. I have photographed her before in the kitchen as well, but I liked this picture more because I felt like it told a little bit more about who she was. And the picture that's behind her was painted by my grandfather. So there are little features about this that connect who she is to who I am and what I remember of her. You may know this person. This person's Old Donato. Now, when I think about Old Donato, I often think of her at my grandparents' house. So my mom has 5 siblings, but of all the siblings, she's the one who's always at, or was always at, my grandparents' house. And so she would often be there at dinner time, helping them set the table. And so this picture was taken in my grandparents' house. And that's really what I wanted to focus on, is where do I see these people? Where do I think of them the most? And so while I was working, I would always stop by my grandmother's house on the way home, and I would catch my mom at my grandmother's house. And that's where I would spend some time before coming home. So that's an example of how, just with these 3 pictures that I've shown you already, it shows you details about them without really telling you who they are or what it is about them. So the viewer has to spend a little bit of time with it. So I'm going to flip through a couple more. So this is my grandfather. He's photographed in the kitchen because every time I'd go over there as well, he would always be in the kitchen waiting for dinner from my grandmother. So she would cook him dinner every single night, which is crazy. But he would always sit in his chair at the table waiting for dinner and just hanging out. And so that would be the place where I would always find him. So it's things like that that you want to think about when you photograph. I have small details in the background, but the person is the main focus of my photographs. So I don't want to spend too much time on that, but I did kind of want to clear that up. So you're going to use the article to go through the steps of figuring out your concept. So you're going to use the Art Project Ideas, a guide to subject matter selection, and you are going to follow those steps. What you're going to do is you're going to brainstorm ideas first. And when I say brainstorm, I really mean you are going to dump all of your ideas onto a piece of paper. Start with a list. List everything that you think you would want to photograph. Just dump it on the list. Then you're going to go through and you're going to eliminate. So when I say dump everything onto the list, you're going to think about, things that you like. They could be really broad too, like flowers, sunsets, landscapes, people, clothes, drinks, like maybe you love going to Starbucks and that's something that you want to think about. Something that can be controversial, something that's unusual, something you want to explore. Maybe it's not something that's directly connected to you, but maybe it's an idea of something you want to look at and figure out a little bit more about. Then you're going to go through and you're going to eliminate anything that seems like it's cheesy or overdone or doesn't have any meaning behind it. So the easiest thing for you to do is to pick something that's going to have a deeper meaning. So you're going to eliminate. You should be left with your top 3. So the top 3 that you keep coming back to and you're like, I really like that idea, I like this one, and I like this one. You're going to look at those 3 and you're going to think about how many pictures could I create from each of those topics. So let's say you had 3 topics. One was flowers, one was relatives, and one was cats. If you can only make 2 pictures out of cats, like you can only photograph them in 2 different ways, then you're not going to want to keep that. If you can only photograph, your flowers in 2 different ways, you don't want to keep it. If you can photograph relatives or something close to you in a list of ways, like if you can start thinking of pictures you would want to create and you have an endless list, that's the one you want to go with. That's the concept you want to choose. You don't want anything that's just going to limit you. You also want to make sure that you pick something you love. Do not pick a topic just because you think it's going to be easy. That's actually going to work in reverse and it's going to make it much harder for you. So pick a topic that you really want to explore or an idea that you really want to photograph, because that's going to make it easiest for you. Okay, so once you have your list decided, you have your concept decided, and you have your ideas kind of sketched out, or you're thinking about what you want to photograph from your concept, then you're going to sketch out your ideas. So we're going to be creating a portfolio of work. So what that means is you're going to have a series of photographs, and I'm slowly going to build them up. So this week we're only creating 1. Next week we're going to create 2. The following week you're going to create 3, and the very last week you're going to add any that you feel like need to tell that story. So that's just going to kind of be like your filler, and we're going to create an artist statement. So that's why I said you really want to make sure that you are picking a concept that you love, because we're going to really explore this concept and continue to work with this concept through the rest of the semester. So you're going to sketch out some ideas of photographs that you could create from that concept. So let me give you an example. When I was first thinking about the photographs that I wanted to take for my portfolio, I was thinking about, I knew that I wanted to photograph people, but I had to think about how and what people I wanted to photograph. So I started thinking about who would I want to focus on? And I was reflecting on how important family is. So at that time, I wanted to photograph anybody who was in my immediate family. So that's when I started thinking about, okay, I know I want to photograph people, and I know I want them to be family members or close members of, significant others of family members that have now become family. So then my next step was to think about how I wanted to photograph these people. So that's when I really kind of developed my concept of photographing them in areas that really reflect who they are and what they mean to me. So that's when I started thinking about all the characteristics of the people. So I listed all the people I was going to photograph, and I listed any characteristics I had of them. So for example, when I was thinking about photographing my mom, I knew that I wanted to include, how close my grandmother was to her and the fact that she played a big part in her life. And so I listed those things and knew, okay, I need to photograph her at my grandmother's house. When I was photographing my uncle, just like I told you guys before, I was thinking, what are some characteristics that stand out to me about this person, and how can I include them in the picture to tell that story? So that's what you really want to think about when you are developing your pictures. So this week is really going to be spent on developing your concept, so figuring out what that concept is, and also figuring out what your first picture is going to be in that series of work. So this can be kind of difficult for some people because they want to say like, well, I want to photograph flowers, or I want to photograph trees, or I really like music. When you say something as general as music, trees, flowers, animals, you have to ask yourself the question, what about that? So what about that subject do you like? Do you like, certain types of trees and what they symbolize? Do you like certain flowers and what those symbolize? Or is maybe there a deeper connection? Like that's really what we're looking for, is that deeper connection to that concept. Now, this is not to say that trees and flowers aren't great subjects, because they are, but your subject holds more weight when there's a deeper meaning to that. And that's really what we're doing, is we're developing a series of photographs that have a deeper meaning, that all connect to one another. So you also have to look at your pictures and think, do these make sense together? If I put all these pictures in a portfolio together, is my viewer going to understand what I'm saying? Is my viewer going to understand my concept or my idea? So this week, you are going to spend your time following the steps of the Student Art Guide article, where it talks about how you're going to create your concept. So you're going to follow those steps. And you're also going to then read the article, the second article that I have posted in Google Classroom, which is the article on the 10 steps for creating a series. So do the article first that has to do with the student guide. You're going to follow that first, follow those steps for eliminating your ideas and kind of narrowing down your focus. And then you're going to go through with what you have, and you're going to double check it using the 10 steps. So first things first, develop that concept. You're not going to be able to develop your photographs unless you have that concept identified. So this is really important, because this is the skill that all artists use when they go into creating their series of art. And they never just start to really, create artwork without an idea. There's usually a focus of what they want to look at and where they want to go with it. So that's what I'm teaching you how to do. I'm teaching you how to think and create art like an artist. So this is what we're working on this week. I know it might be a little bit difficult for you. Any questions that you have about this, please feel free to reach out to me. I want to help you through this. So if you need somebody to double check your ideas, or you need somebody to kind of like bounce ideas off of, use each other too. If you explain to your peers what you're planning on doing and they don't understand it, then you might want to think about what's missing in your artwork, and feel free to kind of send your ideas my way, and I can give you some feedback and let you know what I think, and any ways that I can help you. So I'm going to include some example pictures for you to see from my work, but remember, the more interested you are in the concept and the closer you are to the concept, the easier it's going to be for you to create your artwork. So don't forget that. Again, I can't wait to see what you guys create. I really can't wait to see what concepts you develop. And remember, you only need one inspiration picture that you are going to create this week to start off that concept in that series of work. So Pick something you love, be creative, think outside the box, and yeah, can't wait to see it. I'll talk to you guys soon. Okay, so once you have your list decided, you have your concept decided, and you have your ideas kind of sketched out, or you're thinking about what you want to photograph from your concept, then you're going to sketch out your ideas. So we're going to be creating a portfolio of work. So what that means is you're going to have a series of photographs, and I'm slowly going to build them up. So this week we're only creating one. Next week we're going to create two. The following week you're going to create three, and the very last week you're going to add any that you feel like need to tell that story. So that's just going to kind of be like your filler, and we're going to create an artist statement. So that's why I said you really want to make sure that you are picking a concept that you love, because we're going to really explore this concept and continue to work with this concept through the rest of the semester. So you're going to sketch out some ideas of photographs that you could create from that concept. So let me give you an example. When I was first thinking about the photographs that I wanted to take for my portfolio, I was thinking about, I knew that I wanted to photograph people, but I had to think about how and what people I wanted to photograph. So I started thinking about who would I want to focus on? And I was reflecting on how important family is. So at that time, I wanted to photograph anybody who was in my immediate family. So that's when I started thinking about, okay, I know I want to photograph people, and I know I want them to be family members or close members of, significant others of family members that have now become family. So then my next step was to think about how I wanted to photograph these people. So that's when I really kind of developed my concept of photographing them in areas that really reflect who they are and what they mean to me. So that's when I started thinking about all the characteristics of the people. So I listed all the people I was going to photograph, and I listed any characteristics I had of them. So for example, when I was thinking about photographing my mom, I knew that I wanted to include, how close my grandmother was to her and the fact that she played a big part in her life. And so I listed those things and knew, okay, I need to photograph her at my grandmother's house. When I was photographing my uncle, just like I told you guys before, I was thinking, what are some characteristics that stand out to me about this person, and how can I include them in the picture to tell that story? So that's what you really want to think about when you are developing your pictures. So this week is really going to be spent on developing your concept, so figuring out what that concept is, and also figuring out what your first picture is going to be in that series of work. So this can be kind of difficult for some people because they want to say like, well, I want to photograph flowers, or I want to photograph trees, or I really like music. When you say something as general as music, trees, flowers, animals, you have to ask yourself the question, what about that? So what about that subject do you like? Do you like, certain types of trees and what they symbolize? Do you like certain flowers and what those symbolize? Or is maybe there a deeper connection? Like that's really what we're looking for, is that deeper connection to that concept. Now, this is not to say that trees and flowers aren't great subjects, because they are, but your subject holds more weight when there's a deeper meaning to that. And that's really what we're doing, is we're developing a series of photographs that have a deeper meaning, that all connect to one another. So you also have to look at your pictures and think, do these make sense together? If I put all these pictures in a portfolio together, is my viewer going to understand what I'm saying? Is my viewer going to understand my concept or my idea? So this week, you are going to spend your time following the steps of the Student Art Guide article, where it talks about how you're going to create your concept. So you're going to follow those steps. And you're also going to then read the article, the second article that I have posted in Google Classroom, which is the article on the 10 steps for creating a series. So do the article first that has to do with the student guide. You're going to follow that first, follow those steps for eliminating your ideas and kind of narrowing down your focus. And then you're gonna go through with what you have and you're gonna double check it using the 10 steps. So first things first, develop that concept. You're not gonna be able to develop your photographs unless you have that concept identified. So this is really important because this is the skill that all artists use when they go into creating their series of art. And they never just start to really, create artwork without an idea. There's usually a focus of what they want to look at and where they want to go with it. So that's what I'm teaching you how to do. I'm teaching you how to think and create art like an artist. So this is what we're working on this week. I know it might be a little bit difficult for you. Any questions that you have about this, please feel free to reach out to me. I want to help you through this. So if you need somebody to double check your ideas, or you need somebody to kind of like bounce ideas off of, use each other too. If you explain to your peers what you're planning on doing and they don't understand it, then you might want to think about what's missing in your artwork, and feel free to kind of send your ideas my way and I can give you some feedback and let you know what I think and any ways that I can help you. So I'm going to include some example pictures for you to see from my work, but remember, the more interested you are in the concept and the closer you are to the concept, the easier it's going to be for you to create your artwork. So don't forget that. Again, I can't wait to see what you guys create. I really can't wait to see what concepts you develop. And remember, you only need one inspiration picture that you are going to create this week to start off that concept in that series of work. So pick something you love, be creative, think outside the box, and yeah, can't wait to see it. I'll talk to you guys soon.